The Parker home, once filled with laughter and the gentle chaos of family life, had become unrecognizable. Now, a heavy silence pressed down on every corner, thick with tension and uncertainty. Emily Parker stood frozen in the center of her own living room, heart pounding in her chest, as a stranger named Rachel confronted her with a claim that seemed impossible. Between them, 5-year-old Lily played quietly on the floor, blissfully unaware of the storm that was about to upend her world. Rachel's words sliced through the air. "She is not your daughter. She is mine." The accusation was so shocking it barely seemed real. For a moment, time seemed to stop. The accusation was surreal, like a nightmare invading a peaceful afternoon, and Emily could hardly process what she was hearing. Emily's husband, Mark, stepped forward, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and anger. "You have the wrong house. Please leave us alone." But Rachel refused to back down. She insisted she had proof, documents that revealed a hospital mix-up years ago, evidence she claimed would change everything. The conviction in Rachel's voice planted a seed of fear in Emily's heart, a fear that grew with every word Rachel spoke. Instinctively, Emily clung to Lily, desperate to shield her from this impossible claim and the chaos it threatened to unleash. The confrontation felt unreal, as if the world had tilted on its axis, but the threat was undeniable and immediate. Rachel's gaze never left Lily, her eyes filled with a mix of longing, pain, and fierce determination that sent chills down Emily's spine. Emily's mind raced. How could anyone believe such a thing? How could a stranger walk in and threaten to tear apart everything she loved? The normal world faded away, replaced by a charged silence that seemed to stretch on forever, every second heavy with dread. Mark's protective arm around Emily was the only comfort she could find, a small anchor in a sea of confusion and fear. Emily's instincts screamed that this was a lie, a cruel mistake, but as she looked at Rachel's unwavering expression, doubt crept in, uninvited and persistent. The stranger's presence shattered their sense of safety, turning their home into a battleground of uncertainty and fear. Emily held her breath, searching for answers in her daughter's face, desperate for reassurance that their bond was unbreakable. The accusation was only the beginning of a painful journey, one that would test every truth Emily thought she knew. The foundation of Emily's family, and her identity as a mother, was about to be tested in ways she could never have imagined. Disbelief shielded Emily at first, a numbness settling over her as she tried to process the impossible. But fear quickly followed, creeping in like a cold wind through a cracked window, chilling her to the core. She clung desperately to memories of Lily's birth, the tiny fingers wrapped around hers, the first cries, the sleepless nights that somehow felt magical. The bond they'd built, the love that defined her life, became her lifeline in the storm. Rachel's story was disturbingly detailed: a hospital mix-up, a missing child, a photo of a newborn that looked eerily familiar. Each word felt like a stone thrown into the calm waters of Emily's world, sending ripples of doubt. For a moment, Emily felt empathy for Rachel's pain, imagining the agony of losing a child. But that empathy was quickly drowned by a surge of protective fury. No one would take Lily from her. Not now, not ever. Still, what if there was a grain of truth? The thought haunted her, echoing in the quiet moments of the night, refusing to be silenced. She tried to focus on the facts: Lily's laugh, her smile, the daily acts of love that made their bond undeniable. Surely love was proof enough. But doubt once planted was hard to shake. It grew in the shadows, feeding on her fears and insecurities. When Rachel finally left, the accusation lingered like a toxic fog, poisoning the air in Emily's home. Emily searched Lily's face for proof, for the familiar features she'd always known and loved. But now even those familiar features seemed uncertain, as if she was seeing her daughter for the first time. The nightmare had begun, and Emily knew it was far from over. Every moment was now tinged with anxiety and suspicion. Her life was changed by a single, unbelievable claim, a claim that threatened to unravel everything she held dear. The warmth of her home was replaced by a chilling uncertainty. every corner now filled with questions and fear. Emily's resolve hardened. She would fight for her daughter, for the truth, no matter the cost. But the fear was real, and it would not let go. It clung to her, a constant companion in the darkness. The family's peace had been shattered, replaced by silence and uncertainty. Emily's love for Lily was her only anchor, the one thing she could trust in a world suddenly turned upside down. The battle for truth had just begun, and Emily was determined to see it through, no matter how dark the road ahead. Days passed, and doubt grew into a suffocating presence. Emily scrutinized Lily's features, desperate for reassurance. Old photos brought fleeting comfort, but panic always returned. Her protectiveness became stifling, and Lily sensed the change. Laughter faded, replaced by strained silence and guilt. Emily's fear was casting a shadow over her daughter's childhood. Desperate for answers, Emily contacted the hospital, but bureaucracy blocked her at every turn. Frustration mounted as she searched for official records. The birth certificate listed Emily and Mark as parents, but it felt like cold comfort. Paper proof wasn't enough to silence the doubt. The what-if echoed in every quiet moment. Emily realized she needed more than documents. She needed certainty. The search for truth was consuming her. The family's world had shrunk to a single terrifying question. Only undeniable proof could restore their peace. A legal notice arrived. Rachel had filed for a court-ordered maternity test. The nightmare was now a public legal battle. Emily and Mark hired a lawyer who explained the process and the likelihood of a DNA test. The test was both a violation and a hope, a chance to end the nightmare. At the clinic, the procedure was quick but emotionally wrenching. Lily's innocence made the ordeal even more painful. Emily fought tears as the swab was taken, feeling the weight of doubt. The wait for results was agonizing. 2 weeks of fear and hope. Emily tried to keep life normal for Lily, but anxiety was ever present. Every day felt endless, the future hanging on a sealed envelope. At night, Emily's certainty wavered, but her love for Lily never did. Science would decide what her heart already knew. The DNA test was both her greatest fear and her only salvation. The family clung to each other, waiting for the truth. The outcome would change everything. The hope of science was their last refuge. The courtroom was cold and imposing, its silence broken only by the distant echo of footsteps and the soft rustle of papers. The air felt heavy, thick with anticipation and the weight of what was about to unfold. Emily sat beside Mark, hands clenched so tightly her knuckles whitened as the judge entered with a solemn expression. Every eye in the room turned toward the bench, the tension almost palpable. Lily was kept away, shielded from the ordeal by a caring relative. She waited in a quiet hallway, unaware of the storm of emotion swirling just beyond the doors. The judge held up the sealed DNA results, the envelope trembling slightly in his grasp. The entire courtroom seemed to hold its breath. Emily's world narrowed to the judge's face as she opened the envelope, her heart pounding in her chest. Every second stretched endlessly, her future hanging in the balance. The judge read aloud, "The probability of maternity between Emily Parker and Lily Parker is 99.999%. The words echoed through the chamber, final and undeniable. Relief crashed over Emily, tears of joy and release streaming down her face. Years of doubt and fear melted away in an instant. It was over. Science had spoken, cutting through confusion and accusation with clarity. Mark squeezed her hand, both overwhelmed with emotion. Their silent support for each other had carried them through the darkest days. The judge turned to Rachel. "The probability of maternity is 0%. The truth at last was spoken aloud for all to hear. Rachel's composure shattered. She broke down in anguish, her hopes and beliefs dissolving in the face of irrefutable evidence. Her claim, built on conviction, was demolished by fact. The courtroom's atmosphere shifted from tension to a somber acceptance. The courtroom drama ended, but the emotional fallout remained. The echoes of the verdict would linger long after the doors closed. Emily's family was vindicated, but the scars would linger. The ordeal had left its mark on everyone involved. The truth had prevailed, but at a heavy cost. Trust, once shaken, would take time to rebuild. The ordeal had tested every bond, pushing the family to its limits and forcing them to confront their deepest fears. Emily's love for Lily was now affirmed beyond doubt, their connection stronger for having survived the trial. The family could finally begin to heal, taking their first steps toward a future free from suspicion. The nightmare was over, but the journey forward had just begun. They would face it together, stronger and united. The power of science had restored their peace, offering answers where there had only been questions. The unthinkable accusation was finally laid to rest, the case closed with certainty and justice. The Parkers could reclaim their lives, stepping into the light of a new beginning, forever changed but finally free. With the DNA results clear, the court turned to Rachel's motives. Investigation revealed Rachel's own child had died shortly after birth, a tragedy she couldn't accept. Grief drove her to believe Lily was her lost daughter, creating an elaborate delusion. Her actions, though rooted in pain, caused immense harm to the Parkers. The court ordered psychiatric treatment and a permanent restraining order. Emily's anger was tempered by pity. Rachel was broken by loss, not malice. Justice was served, but the story was a tragedy for all involved. Understanding Rachel's pain helped Emily begin to let go of her own anger. The family could now focus on healing. The threat was gone, but the scars remained. Emily worked to rebuild her family's sense of safety and joy. She poured love into every moment with Lily, determined to replace fear with happiness. Mark and Emily faced their own healing, supporting each other through the aftermath. Laughter slowly returned and the family grew stronger. The ordeal deepened their appreciation for each other. Healing was a journey, not a destination. Together they moved forward, leaving the darkness behind. Cases like the Parkers highlight the intersection of law, psychology, and science. Courts rely on DNA tests to resolve parentage disputes quickly and fairly. Experts note that false claims often stem from mental health struggles, not malice. Psychological evaluations are crucial for understanding and treating claimants like Rachel. DNA testing has revolutionized family law, providing certainty where once there was doubt. Families facing such accusations should seek legal and emotional support. The legal battle is only part of the challenge. Healing the emotional wounds is just as vital. Science and compassion together can restore peace. The Parkers' story proves that family is built on more than biology. Science confirmed what love already knew. Emily was Lily's mother. The ordeal tested their bonds, but love endured and grew stronger. Rachel's tragedy reminds us to look for the human story behind every conflict. Justice and compassion both played a role in the resolution. The Parkers emerged united, their family tapestry stronger than ever. Truth, love, and science prevailed. In the end, the unbreakable bond of family triumphed.